Hello guys, this is Recaps Now here. Today, I will explain the Japanese survival movie Survival Family. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie revolves around the Suzuki family. The family consists of 4 members, and they live in rural Tokyo. In the opening scene, we find them living in their small flat. The head of the family, Yoshiyuki Suzuki, is watching the television. On the other hand, his son Kenji and daughter Yui are seen talking on the phone. The only source of entertainment for the total family is technology. As a result, they hardly seem to have time for each other. The next morning, Yoshiyuki is late to wake up and finds that his alarm clock was not working. He hurriedly goes outside and asks his wife Mitsu what was the time. But he observes that none of the clocks in the house were working. Mitsu informs him that all the electric clocks had stopped working because of load shedding. Yo awakes and finds that even the AC and TV were also not working. Yo tries to contact the electricity provider, but finds that even the phone is out of order. After this, Yoshiyuki and the children get ready and leave for work and school respectively. When they go to the elevator, they find a long queue there as well. But they find out that the power cut had affected the elevator as well. Everyone comes downstairs. They are confused by the sudden power cut. Yoshiyuki was getting late for work, so he runs to the rail station. But here also he faces a huge crowd, and we learn that the power cut was the reason for the train not working, and the passengers cannot travel by it until the problem is solved. The people then try to get to their destination by bus. But all electric or fuel-based systems had also broken down. Meanwhile, Kenji goes to school by bicycle. We see the city that is normally crowded now had empty roads. Kenji is surprised and keeps on cycling ahead and finds that people were now going to work on foot. 2 men look at his bicycle and feel jealous of him. After Yoshiyuki reaches his office, at last, he sees that the automated door was not working. What was more surprising was the fact that nobody's watches were functioning. As a result, they did not know what time it was actually. After a lot of thinking, 2 of Yoshiyuki's co-workers break open the glass door and enter for work. However, they are left disheartened again as they understand that the computers were also not working. On the other hand, Mitsu meets her friend outside the flat, and they talk about the power cut situation. We see that her friends are running to get candles from the store for use at night. A confused Mitsu felt that the power would return by the night, but still joins her friends and neighbors. We see a huge crowd at the grocery store, and people are seen buying huge amounts of food and water supplies. Mitsu also does the same and waits in the queue for payment. The cashier says they will only accept cash as payment as none of the machines were working. Hearing this, some people go to the ATM booth to get money, but after going, they find that even the ATM were not working as well. People at Yoshiyuki's office understand that it was not an ordinary power cut, but they could not make out what exactly went wrong. The boss allows them to take an early leave for the day as they could not continue working without computers. On his way back, Yoshiyuki visits a bicycle shop. Yoshiyuki buys a bicycle despite it being expensive due to the power cut. In the night, the Suzuki family has seen dining peacefully under candlelight. Meanwhile, Kenji goes to the washroom and finds the flush and tap were both not working. Yui feels confused as he thought power cuts should not result in the taps malfunctioning. The children return to their rooms after finishing dinner but start feeling bored after a while without cell phones and the internet. Next, the whole family goes to the balcony and looks at the stars in the sky. As the whole city was dark, so the light coming from the sky seemed even brighter. Here we see that the Suzuki family spends quality time with each other after many years. 3 days had passed since the power cut and the house was in a miserable condition. There was a pile of dirty plates in the sink, and dirty clothes also can be seen around, all due to lack of water. We see that people's life had changed upside down due to the power cut in a matter of only 72 hours. Meanwhile, Yoshiaki's boss asks everyone to stop coming until the situation improves and power comes back. Yoshiyuki protests and says that if they did not work they won't have money. However, his boss asks him to go home and take care of his family. Yoshiaki says that it was almost impossible to survive in Tokyo in the current situation, as they would run out of food and water supplies shortly. After this, we see that Yoshiaki notices his boss going to the rural areas along with his family while he was outside the office. Yoshiyuki also thinks of going to the countryside, but hopes that everything would be alright soon. The scene shifts and we see Mitsu goes to a water tank situated nearby to collect water, but they are sent back as the tanks were also out of fresh drinking water. On the other hand, Yoshiaki goes to the bank to withdraw money, but is not successful due to the crowd. 7 days passed and all the grocery stores were out of food and other necessities. All institutions, including offices and schools, had been shut. Factories had also been shut due to the power crisis. Many people are seen moving to the countryside every day, and the Suzuki family is also determined to do the same thing. The next morning, they get ready and pack the bags and leave early on a bicycle. The children are riding their bicycles while Yoshiaki and Mitsu go on Yoshiaki's bicycle. They stop in the middle of the journey to buy water, but all the shops are charging extra for the water. Mitsu bargains with the shopkeeper and gets some water at a cheap rate. After that, they take a break for rest and relax and again continue the journey after having food and rest. They finally reach the airport and decide to board the flight to Kagoshima, which was also the village of Mitsu and her father used to live there. They heard that the flights were still active, but are left empty-handed when they see a crowd of people complaining to the authority. And we learn that the flights had also been terminated and would only resume after the power crisis is resolved. With no other option, the family checks into a nearby hotel. The hotel's owner sees this as an opportunity and charges them an excessive rate as a fare. But the family does not complain about it. At night, Yui wants to go back, but Yoshiaki says that Tokyo was now out of both food and water. He also says that they would not survive if they went back. They figure out that they have to reach Kagoshima by bicycle only. The next day, Kenji and Yui visit a bookshop and buy a map for navigating locations. On the other hand, the parents exchange 2 bottles of alcohol and buy a bicycle and food. After this, they continue the journey ahead. After cycling for a few hours, they get to a highway where many people like them are going to the countryside. They stop at a camp at night and spend the night there. A couple observes that the Suzuki family were drinking water and asks them to lend the couple a bit of water, but they lied that it was the last bottle remaining. After this, they have dinner and go to sleep. The next morning, they continue the journey and reach a tunnel full of dead bodies and skeleton. An old lady assists them to cross the tunnel. We see it is 16 days and still, power has not returned. Next, the family is shown to be beside a river when their last bottle of water ends. After this, Yoshiaki drinks the river water for survival. After this, they leave from there, and just then, a storm strikes, and the family is forced to leave their bicycles and other belongings on the spot and find a safe place for shelter nearby. Once the storm ends, they return to the place where they left the bicycles and find that one of the tires had been dismantled. We also see that their clothes and food supplies had also been ruined. After a while, they get to a neighboring town, and the children go out in search of necessities while Yoshiyuki and Mitsu relax. The children find a grocery store and are excited by it, but the food section had no food left. Furthermore, Kenji looks for a bicycle tire, but even those are out of stock. After this, he finds battery water that can be used for drinking purposes, as it was nothing but distilled water. Yui also gets a jar of cat food and brings it to the parents. She tries the cat food next and finds it disgusting in taste, but they had no choice and now had to survive on this only for the time being. Kenji uses his phone cover to fix the bicycle tire, and they resume the journey. The family survives on cat food and battery water for 7 days. After that, on the 22nd day, they meet a group of campers. The campers introduce them to edible weed and teach them about it. One of the campers takes a family picture of the Suzuki family using a film camera and assures them that he would send it to them when the power came back. All of them travel as a group for a few hours before parting ways. On the 43rd day, they come across an aquarium where people used to catch and eat fish from. The family joins the queue of people, hopefully in search of food, as they had limited access to food at that moment. Unfortunately, when their turn comes, everything is sold out. Yoshiyuki begs the fish seller to give some fish to the kids, but is ignored by the seller. The disappointed family continues the journey, but shortly they get tired because of the lack of food and water. Suddenly, one day they reach a field and Yoshiaki is about to eat an insect. At that moment, they see a pig close to them. The family is filled with joy when Yoshiyuki captures it, but they are somehow not willing to slaughter it. Just then, a man comes and cuts the pig. He introduces himself as Tanaka and requests the family to help him to get the pig to his firm. Tanaka treats the family with a feast like a meal at his house. The family finishes the whole meal with great content as they had not eaten for some days. They stay at Tanaka's house for a week and then decide to continue the journey to the village once more. After 3 days, they reach a river. It is revealed that the map that they had with them was an old one, so now they are required to cross a river to reach the destination. They build a makeshift raft with pieces of wood and manage to get Yui and Mitsu across to the other side. After that, Yoshiaki and Kenji return to get the bicycles. But just then, it starts raining and the water current flows so fast that it takes Yoshiaki with it. Kenji tries his level best to save his father, but only finds his way inside the water. The family is seen sitting by the river crying and mourn Yoshiaki's death. After some time, they resume the journey and continue by foot. They survive up to day 94, as they had stocked some food while at Tanaka's. Later, when they are walking by the railway track, Mitsu is attacked by a group of dogs, and she falls down. The children try to save her but find that her leg was broken. The children manage to get Mitsu back on track, but are attacked by the dogs again. Just then, we hear the sound of a steam train. To the family's surprise, the train stops on its track to pick them up. The train was a coal-based train. As a result, it was still working perfectly. Once inside, people dress Mitsu's wounds and assist the family. In the next scene, we see Yoshiyuki's body is washed up by the river. Luckily, he regains consciousness and manages to get himself to a truck nearby. At that very moment, the steam train carrying his family is seen passing by. Yoshiyuki uses a torch to attract the train's attention. Finally, the train stops and the family is reunited. They reach their destination by train. They meet Mitsu's father and start living with him. It is then shown that it has been 856 days since the power crisis occurred. The Suzuki family now lives in the village of Kagoshima. They seem very happy and spend their life fishing and weaving clothes. Suddenly, one day, Yoshiyuki is woken up by the sound of the alarm clock. We see the whole village wakes up to the power coming back. Light bulbs are working, phones are ringing. It was like a festival. Everyone is pleasantly surprised but does not have a clue how the power returned. Some weeks later, the family returns to their old home in Tokyo. It is revealed in the news that the 2.5 years of power crisis was due to a solar flare from the sun. Some people believe terrorists were behind it, but that is up for debate and nobody knew the actual cause of it. In the last scene, the Suzuki family receives the family picture that was taken by the stranger during their travels. The power crisis taught the people to be thankful for the small things in life, and that nothing was for granted. It also brought the Suzuki family who never had time for each other closer. Thus, the movie ends. Thank you for watching.